The jacket was $280. You saw it in the window, you noted the price, and you kept walking. Too much. Then, 2 weeks later, you walk past again and there's a sign in the window. Sale, 40% off. You stop. You do the math in your head. You saved a 1-2. You walk in. You buy the jacket. Here's the question nobody asks. Did you need the jacket? Most people, if they're honest, will say they weren't in the market for a jacket. They weren't cold. They didn't have a hole in their wardrobe. The jacket was not on the list. But the sale made it feel like the right move, not because the jacket was useful, because the number 168 felt good compared to the number 280. The discount did the work. The original price set the trap, and you walked into it feeling like you won. This is the anchoring trap, and it is one of the most effective, most profitable, and most invisible mechanisms in modern retail. It does not require you to be gullible. It does not require aggressive salesmanship. It just requires that you see a number before you make a decision. That number becomes the anchor. Everything else is measured against it, and whoever set the anchor controls the reference point you use to evaluate every transaction that follows. My name is Arthur. This channel is about the mechanics of money, specifically the invisible ones. Subscribe if that sounds useful, and I can promise you this. The moment you understand anchoring, you will never look at a sale sign the same way again. Anchoring is one of the most well-documented cognitive biases in behavioral economics. The original research was conducted by Tversky and Daniel Kahneman in the 1970s and has been replicated hundreds of times since. The core finding is simple and slightly disturbing. When people are asked to estimate an unknown quantity, their answer is heavily influenced by whatever number they encountered just before the question. Even if that number is completely arbitrary, even if they know the number was randomly generated, and even if it has no logical connection to the thing being estimated. In one classic version of the experiment, participants were asked to spin a wheel that was rigged to land on either 10 or 65. They were then asked to estimate the percentage of African countries in the United Nations. People who spun 65 gave significantly higher estimates than people who spun 10. The wheel had nothing to do with the question. The number still moved the answer. Now take that same cognitive mechanism and put it in the hands of a retailer who has thought carefully about how to set your reference point. The result is not a wheel. The result is a price tag with 2 numbers on it. The higher number, the original price, the was price, the crossed out price, is not primarily there to communicate what the item used to cost. In many cases, especially in fast fashion and mass retail, that original price was never a real transaction price. The item was never meaningfully sold at that number. The higher number exists to create an anchor. Its function is to make the real price look small, to make you feel like you're on the right side of a transaction, to manufacture a sense of gain from what is actually just a purchase. This is called reference price manipulation, and according to research published in the Journal of Marketing Research, it is consistently one of the most effective tools available to retailers. Not because it exploits stupidity, because it exploits a normal function of the human brain. Your brain does not evaluate things in absolute terms. It evaluates things in relative terms. Is this a good deal? That question cannot be answered without a reference point, and whoever provides the reference point shapes the answer. When a furniture store shows you a sofa for $1,200 with a tag saying it was originally $2,400, your brain anchors to $2,400. The $1,200 then feels like getting something for half price. You feel thrifty, you feel smart. The fact that the sofa may never have been worth $2,400, or may never have sold at $2,400, or may have been produced for $100 and marked up to $2,400 specifically so that it could be discounted to $1,200, does not register. The anchor did its job before your logic had a chance to run. Let me walk you through the math of a few common scenarios so the cost becomes concrete. A person who buys something on sale that they were not planning to buy has not saved money. They have spent money. The savings are entirely fictional. If you spend $168 on a jacket you were not going to buy, you have not saved $12. You have spent $168. The $12 never existed as money in your possession. It is a discount on a transaction that would not have happened without the discount. In that scenario, the sale did not help you. The sale created the purchase. The retailer took $168 from you that you would otherwise have kept. Research from the Journal of Consumer Research found that promotional pricing, discounts, sales, limited time offers, increases purchase frequency for items that were not on the shopper's original list. In other words, sales do not primarily help people buy things they were going to buy anyway at a lower price. They primarily help retailers sell things people were not going to buy. The typical American household spends approximately $1,800 per year on clothing. A significant portion of that spending is driven by sale events, Black Friday, end-of-season clearance, flash sales, members-only events. Each of these creates urgency combined with anchoring. The original price is the anchor. The deadline is the accelerant. Together, they produce purchases that feel inevitable and smart, and that frequently result in items that sit unworn in a closet. That OLO 1800 per year, invested at 7% over 20 years, is approximately $800 OLO. That is obviously not all driven by anchoring, but if anchoring-driven impulse spending accounts for even 30% of that clothing budget, which is conservative given the research, that is $540 per year, or approximately $264,000 over 20 years, spent on things that went on sale and therefore felt necessary. There is a second, more sophisticated version of the anchoring trap that operates in high-ticket purchases in service industries. It is called the high anchor strategy, and it works like this. You are shown an expensive option first. The purpose of the expensive option is not to sell you the expensive option. The purpose of the expensive option is to make every other option look reasonable by comparison. A contractor gives you 3 quotes: a premium renovation for $45,000, a standard renovation for $28,000, and a basic renovation for $18,000. You are expecting to pay around $15,000, but the $45,000 anchor has already moved your reference point. The $28,000 now feels like the middle ground, the sensible choice, not the extravagant one, not the cheap one. You choose $28,000. You have just spent $13,000 more than you expected to spend, and you feel good about it because you didn't choose the $45,000 option. This is not an accident. The $45,000 option was not a real offer. It was an anchor. It existed to make the $28,000 look like a bargain. This same structure appears in car dealerships, in restaurant menus, in insurance packages, in hotel room tiers, in software subscription plans, in almost any situation where you are offered a range of options. The most expensive option in the range is frequently there to move your anchor, not to be selected. The item in the middle of the range, the one that gets selected most often, looks reasonable precisely because the expensive option exists. Research from behavioral economist Dan Ariely and colleagues confirmed this with a famous experiment involving magazine subscriptions. When participants were offered a digital-only subscription for $59 or a print plus digital subscription for $125, most chose digital-only. When a third option was added, a print-only subscription, also for $125, almost no one chose it, but the number who chose print plus digital jumped dramatically. The useless option had shifted the anchor, making the combined option look like obvious value. The useless option is a tool. In retail, in services, in any multi-tier pricing structure, the option that nobody buys is often the option that exists specifically to manipulate the perception of the options that do get bought. Now, knowing all of this, what do you do? The first and most important thing is to evaluate prices in absolute terms rather than relative ones. Ask not, is this a good deal compared to the original price? Ask, is this a price I would pay for this item if I had never seen another number on the tag? This is a different question. Sometimes the answer is still yes, but often, when you remove the anchor, the number stops feeling reasonable. A practical way to do this is what I call the blank tag method. Before you look at the sale price or the original price, ask yourself, what would I pay for this item? What is this worth to me? Write that number down mentally. Then look at the actual price. If the actual price is above your independent valuation, no amount of anchoring should change that. The item is priced above what it is worth to you. The fact that it was previously priced even higher is irrelevant. The second thing is to become aware of decoy options. When you are shown a menu, a rate sheet, or a set of service tiers, identify which option appears to exist as an anchor. It is usually the most expensive one. Once you see it as an anchor rather than a genuine offer, the pull it exerts on your decision weakens. You are no longer comparing the middle option to the expensive anchor. You are evaluating the middle option on its own merits. The third thing is to treat sale events as inventory clearance exercises rather than personal savings opportunities. A Black Friday sale is not a gift to you. It is a coordinated effort by thousands of retailers to move inventory, using anchoring, urgency, and social proof simultaneously. You can participate in it. You can even benefit from it. If you are buying something you were already going to buy at a price you already determined was acceptable, but if the sale is what created the purchase intention, then the sale did not save you money. It cost you money. The fourth thing is to separate need from discount. The question is never, is this a good deal? The question is always, do I need this? A 70% discount on something you do not need is not a financial win. It is a 30 loss. The discount does not change the underlying transaction. Money left your account. That is the only financially meaningful thing that happened. The anchoring trap is powerful because it hijacks something useful. Your brain's tendency to use reference points to evaluate prices is not a flaw. In most situations, it is a reasonable shortcut. The problem is that in a retail environment, the reference points are not neutral observations. They are engineered inputs, designed by people who understand cognitive bias and are paid to exploit it. The original price on a sale tag is not information. It is a tool. The expensive option at the top of the menu is not a genuine offer. It is a lever. The moment you treat these things as what they actually are, rather than what they appear to be, the trap loses most of its power. You are not going to stop noticing anchors. They are too embedded in retail to avoid, but you can change what you do with them. You can notice them, name them, and then set them aside while you answer the only question that actually matters. Did you need it? Did you plan to buy it? And what would you have paid if the first number you saw had been different? If the sale is the only reason you're buying, the sale is the problem.